think there's something about looking at myself on screen that I don't like, and if the glasses are off, it's kind of like a little,
Blurry.
a little bit of Vaseline on the screen. Yeah. Thank you, guys. I don't. We've not talked live before, but I've listened to a lot of your videos, Pernille. I was doing the Awakening curriculum.
Wonderful. I'm happy.
Last year. Yeah, thank you. I stopped when it got to Theta 4 because I don't think I've seen through the self. That's just where I am. Like, and then I tried to kind of let go of that. It was becoming a little bit of it was becoming an obsession or I've got to get through this goal. I've got to see this. I've got to kind of like, oh, it's okay. Just stay in the.
Yeah. Well done in seeing that and acknowledging that.
Yeah. Well, I got help with that, I think, as well. But thank you. But I listened to you on POK a few weeks ago, and I loved it. I was there on the call. It really helped me in that moment.
I'm so happy.
Thank you. Where I am, I've had some health issues around my lungs, and I got told by a doctor a few weeks ago that I've vaped electronic cigarette for 12 years, I think, and smoked tobacco since I was a teenager before that. And I got told in no uncertain terms that I'm really damaging my health and I needed to stop. And I'm telling you that because the shock of that was it was overwhelming. It was, I just thought, no, I'm not doing it. You can't take that crutch away from me. I'd rather not be in a complete emotional kind of meltdown. And then I realized that I wasn't worried about my health. I was just didn't want to stop the vape. I need, I wanted my crutch. Anyway, I'll try and speed up a bit. I've put down the vape for about 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
And thanks. Ooh, I can feel the emotion of that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just the feelings around that. They feel overwhelming. And I've got a guide in LU really helping me through it, and I'm just trying to feel the sensations. But like Susan was just saying, it gets very, very heady at the same time. It goes straight into a story of this is only going to get worse. You're going to get really low. You're going to get depressed. You're not going to cope with this, all of that. And then at other times I can zoom out a little and just, it's grief, it's anger. I can feel it in my body. But I feel quite exhausted with it all.
I completely get that. Yeah, God. Oh, completely get that, Declan. I really get that.
I think just voicing it in a forum it really helps. So.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. Okay, there are two things I want to say. The first thing I want to is acknowledge you for not vaping now for 2 weeks. It's smoking and vaping is putting smoke screen between us and the world, and it kind of leaves us in. I have like this visual of like a smoke bubble that you're protected in, and it's like soft and warm, and you don't really see the world. It's also why when people stop smoking and vaping that they really become aware of which situations that they need a distance to the world. And it's always situations where somebody says something and you have a feeling that you don't want. It can be anger or shame or resentment or annoyance or anything like that. And that putting a distance between you and the feeling that you feel is a survival mechanism. So if you can when you feel that, see if you just can stay with that. For example, now you get emotional by just sitting and voicing that you have an issue and you're reaching out, and we're here and we see you and we are absolutely supportive of your choice, and you can feel an emotion in the body. Normally, you would vape that emotion away. But now you're just naked with that raw emotion. And if you have smoked and vaped since you were a teenager, you have never
Yeah.
been taught how to actually stay with an emotion.
Yeah.
You've never been taught to be with an emotion. I can recommend you to go to the second feta again and work with the toxic starting point, because that is where we look into where did this originate from, where did this come from, that underlying belief about myself and about other people.
Thank you so much. You,
That
you
that
just, yeah.
yeah, that was the one thing. The other thing I want to say, it's from AA, and it's that really noticing that today you're not vaping. It's not for the rest of your life. Have you done AA? Are you familiar with
Yeah,
it?
that's.
Yeah.
I think that's like I'm also like sober and drugs and
Yeah.
all that in the past. So I think that's partly why this is such a shock, because it's like, well, like I've done this, and that was my thing. So don't take that away. And it's exactly like you said, Neil. That's green.
Do you still have a sponsor?
No, I stopped. It's really funny. Once I got into the non-duality conversation, I didn't seem to have room, and this seemed to either fill a void or take it. So no, I'm not working a program at the moment. No,
because I'm just thinking that right now in this period that you're in, the first year until you get the first year chip is the hardest year, right? And it's a bit like that. If you can see vaping as the same and go to with it with the same diligence that you did with the drugs and alcohol, where it's one day at a time. It's one day at a time. See if you can find a sponsor, because this is not about sobriety, but it is.
Yeah.
The underlying seed is the same. Whether you're talking about alcohol or drugs or cigarettes, it's exactly the same. The underlying is the same. And that little seed might have bigger roots since you have a history with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
So this might actually be about so much more than just vape.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's also important because you're now, I obviously we don't know your backstory, but most likely those things that the drugs or alcohol were keeping you distracted from, you didn't have those, but then you still had cigarettes, you still had the vape, still serving the same purpose. Now you've taken away that kind of final crutch. So if you don't go to whatever the root of that is, you will likely find something new. It might not be
Then it's sugar,
or
gambling, or
or something that's going to take that place, because those things either need to be met and felt and resolved, or they just are going to keep you deflecting in some new fashion that's going to become the new addiction.
And this is the part that is really, really important to talk about when we talk about non-duality, because otherwise we will be bypassing. And it's also why we're so adamant to always talk about the embodiment, talking about how does it feel in the body, because we can't use non-duality as bypassing or anything. We need to really feel it. So yeah.
That's amazing what you say. It's so funny because there's like just to put thought on it, but there's almost like a huge anger and a resentment about it, because I'm like, look, I've done this, I've done this work, and I've put that in the past, and now I'm becoming a spiritual person, and how dare you tell me, I've still got to look at. And it's like, oh, well, sorry, son, but
yeah, I really think where it's going to be different this time, it is that if you go to the second feta and you work with it, because the second feta is the identification with feelings and emotions. So if you have feeling of resentment or anger or something happened in your childhood and you're carrying it with you, what you have the opportunity to do now is really, really look at it and really truly dissolve it. You know, where it's you absolutely see through that whatever happened in your childhood is not happening now, but you're living your life as if it is. And that might be the last, you know, route that needs to be taken up. So it's not about you going back into anger and resentment and shame and all of that. It's about looking at it from the fifth floor, having that overview of of non-self, knowing that there is no I here. There is chemistry happening, and I'm meeting that with love and compassion and kindness. No matter what emotion is arising, I see you and I hear you and I love you. So no matter if anger is showing its face, it's okay. You can be angry. I still love you. And for the first time, you are that mature adult in the room that really, really meet Declan's needs.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Also,
thank you so much.
Also, just last thing too, note when you found the spiritual path, and then that became somebody else.
Oh, just a moment. We just need to.
Thank you. I think I got muted. When you found that in itself could be serving that new purpose of right, and you found that you were like overdoing it. You were like so gung ho on the seeing through the first fetter thing that you got to. So clearly, there's a push there to overuse things or overdo things for this purpose, and it's good to be aware of it, because then you can see, okay, so the idea of spirituality and being a spiritual person who doesn't have to deal with this stuff is a very nice glossy way of bypassing having to actually deal with any of it. So just be aware when those thoughts come up, if they come back again, and anything that you're doing, whether it is reaching for a vape or having even a thought of the vape, or having like a strong impulse to something like sugar, gambling, non-duality, whatever it is, take that moment to come back and feel, what am I feeling right now that I'm trying to escape from? Or what thought has just been here right now that I'm trying to not go down that thinking path? And then become aware of those little motivations that are there. Um, have you seen my talks with Daryl at all?
No.
I can warmly recommend them.
I have a lot on the unfettered mindfulness. It's there. Well, we have 30 of them so far, but there are a lot of them that are specifically where we talk a lot about craving and a lot about the addiction side of things. With his,
Daryl is also great.
he went through AA also, but he's also we're mostly talking about addiction to caffeine and donuts at this point, but it's a suitable metaphor for everything. The important thing is anytime that you have a craving, also noting what that craving actually is. I don't know if you're still getting cravings for vaping.
Yeah, I think the physical ones are going or gone, but it's a strange kind of like some kind of ache around here, and like they're not, physically they're not overwhelming. They're just like, oh, that's odd. It's more kind of the feeling now that somebody stripped off a layer, and like you use the word naked, Pernille. It's like this. I can't. I need to, take the glasses off. I need to step back. It's more that kind of a feeling.
Yeah.
Being an emotional human being can be really exhausting.
It really is, isn't it?
There's really it's not a surprise that humans have found so many ways of intoxicating ourselves and numbing ourselves. Like it's not a unique isolated incident, right? It is a human behavior, and I think it's because, like you said, we really don't, for the most part, have the opportunity to learn appropriate ways of dealing with emotions and feeling emotions, and what it's like to live in an embodied way where we're not pushed and pulled and at war with those little storm clouds of emotion that pass through. as opposed to seeing them for what they are, we make so much out of them. And it becomes this whole war inside of us of either not being allowed to feel something, not wanting to feel something, because we make that little storm cloud into some, you know, unbearable nightmare of a scenario. And it's usually not. But we have to learn how to feel with it and feel it and keep things in an appropriate perspective. And it's a skill that unfortunately most of us are just not taught. So this is now the opportunity to really feel what's there. And you know, you're not doing it to make it go away. You're not doing it because this is like, you know, deep dark shadow work that you have to power through. It's like, can you get in touch with these things that are moving through from a perspective where you're open to the fact that there's this wave of sadness that comes through. There's a wave of grief. There's a wave of anger. Okay, well, what's even under that? You know, just let it play itself out, not by acting out of it, but just feeling the energetic momentum of that anger or that grief. If tears happen, tears happen. If you have to move, move. If you have to punch a pillow, punch a pillow. You know, we have all these different tools that we can use to embody and to move these things out, but then just ride with it. Don't make stories about it. You don't have to, um, you know, create a whole narrative around it. It's really just recognizing this is just a pattern of energy moving through the system. And can you just ride with that? Okay. And then you can even take that into the realm of, you know, where am I in relationship to this emotional storm that's coming through, this emotional pattern of energy? And that can become another sort of non-dual insight of its own. But there are different ways that we can approach it, the key point being not to come at it from a place where that's a problem. You know, it's like an angry dog I've been just chained up in the basement for decades because I'm afraid to go near it, and you know it's too vicious to touch. We just realize that this is just some, you know, emotional energetic pattern that moves through. It's not going to hurt you. It's not dangerous. We just haven't learned the appropriate way to engage with it before.
Yeah, that was exactly the thing with putting down the vape. It was like this black monster under the bed that I just couldn't. And I thought, I can't face this. And you kind of organically think, well, I am facing it, but I don't like it. But
Yeah. But
Oh,
also take kind of like a step back and see that this is what you have been pushing in front of you your entire life. Since you were a teenager, you have pushed this in front of you. And it was only because your doctor said, okay, Declan, this is now.
Yeah.
This is the last stop. You need to get off that now. That is the only motivation that you had to do it. You've been pushing it that far. You know what I mean? So it seems subconsciously, this seems like a really, really huge, difficult, monstrous task that you're standing in front, where it's really not. It's just about noticing what is in the body that is so uncomfortable that you rather want to kill yourself.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And can you be with that? Can you be in a body where this is present? Is it really that bad? Or is it just your mind that is creating stories about how horrendous it is?
And it has to be the latter. It's just feeling that and
Yeah.
inquiring into it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, thank you.
You're so welcome.
So
I can
much.
recommend you to go to Unfettered Mindfulness and
Yeah.
start with the Daryl series. There's like 30 episodes, and all of them are 2.5 hours long. So that's a lot.
But you can go to
That's
the
a new obsession. That'll keep me busy.
There you go.
Exactly, there you go.
But there are a lot of them that are specifically about craving and wants. You can kind of see in the titles if they're applicable to that. We went through a period where that was like the focal point every week for a while.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you so much.